I am privileged to introduce our first speaker of National Seminar on Recent Researchers in Biofertilizers from Lab to Commercialization, Dr. Sushil Kumar Sharma sir. Dr. Sharma sir is Principal Scientist in Agricultural Microbiology in ICAR, National Institute of Biotic Stress Management, Baronda, Raipur, Chhattisgarh. Dr. Sharma is currently working at ICAR NIBSM, Raipur in the area of microbial resource conservation and antimicrobial peptides production by bacteria for biotic stress management in crops. In the recent past, he worked for ICAR National Bureau of Agriculture, Important Microorganisms at Uttar Pradesh, India, for more than 6 years in the capacity of Officer in Charge, Focal Point. During 1997-2013, he worked at ICAR, Indian Institute of Soybean Research, Indore, India, in soybean microbiology for more than 15 years. He delivered talks in International PG/PR Conference in Medellin, Colombia in June 2012 and subsequently in Asian PG/PR Conference, Tashkent, Uzbekistan in 2019. So far, he had published more than 100 articles including research and review articles, book chapters, books, etc. in both national and international journals or books and conferences. His team has developed a simple novel method for detection of operation of tryptophan independent pathway in Micrococcus elevirae. Dr. Sharma sir has also developed 20 low-cost preservation methods of Chromiobacterium violaceum using natural gums at room temperature. Sir has been awarded with Best Scientist Award by Pearl Foundation, Madurai and Excellence PGPR Research by Asian PGPR Society. Recently, he has been nominated as member of Biosafety and Biosecurity Cell of Indian Council of Medical Research, New Delhi. I am very glad that Sir has accepted our invitation from his busy schedule to be our speaker in this seminar. Sir, thank you very much for honoring us with your gracious presence. May I request Sir to kindly address the forum and continue with the keynote address.
Is it okay now?
Yes,
Is it
sir.
okay? It's moving. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sai Prasad. He is also my good friend, my senior. I thank Dr. Sai Prasad for a good lecture on biofertilizer, and particularly he covered the basic part of biofertilizer.
Yeah.
Now the question is, why India or why globe is going towards biofertilizer, biostimulant or biopesticide? Why we are going toward that? Because we have polluted our environment, we have polluted our soil, we have polluted human beings also by this. So that is the reason for which we want now healthy products. Earlier, because earlier we have the situation was different. The situation was that we wanted to secure the food security of the population. Now we have another question. Can we provide nutritious diet? Can we provide healthy food to the human beings, or can we clean our environment? So, okay, I'll proceeding now. Now I think I teaching. So bioinoculant, earlier we were using only biofertilizer term. Now we are using one bioinoculant, and that bioinoculants cover both, rather three components. One is a biofertilizer, another is a biostimulant, and a third one is a biopesticide. So today in Indian scenario or even in the global scenario, people are using three terms. And the regulatory requirements for all these category of microorganisms are different. That is why my talk today is not only on the biofertilizer, but all three components. What bioinoculants? Bioinoculants means all biofertilizer, biostimulant, biofertilizer. They first biofertilizer. The primary work of the biofertilizer is to supply nutrients. That is why this term was coined, biofertilizer, to increase the plant growth. to protect plant from the biotic antibiotic waste. You see, very, very important point, to protect plant from the biotic antibiotic stresses and to improve the soil fertility and health. So this is very important for any bioinoculants, whether it is a biofertilizer, biostimulant, or biopesticide. So now I will talk particularly on the regulation part and the commercialization parts. You see, we'll talk biofertilizer. What kind of biofertilizer we are having? Bacterial type, fungal type, algal type like Azolla, and like cyanobacteria, they are harboring Azolla harboring cyanobacteria, aquatic fern, and the earthworm also harboring microorganism, and that can be used as a biofertilizer. So how Dr. Sai Prasad has shown many mechanisms. If you look this slide, if you see this slide, one part is a plant growth promotion, another part is a plant protection. So you see nitrogen fixation, siderophore production, then phytohormone production, hormone production, phosphate solubilization, potassium, zinc solubilization, and other. And if you come in the other part like biotic stress management, induced systemic resistance, antibiotic production, hydrogen cyanide production, then polysaccharide production and hydrolysis. So there are two components. One is a biofertilization, growth and biofertilization. Another is a control of diseases. So one microbes may harbor both kind of traits like trichoderma. Most of the trichoderma, most of the bacilli are harboring both the traits. So that is why there is a confusion also. Where we keep these microorganisms, under biofertilizer, biostimulant, or the biopesticide. So there is still confusion and there is a debate going on in this area, where we keep particular microorganism in a particular sector so that we can use it. Now, if I talk about the biofertilizer particularly, you see the quality of inoculant manufactured is one of the important factors resulting in their success. Dr. Sai Prasad has told the quality. He said that self-life, the microbes we are using, the trait we are using, the strain we are using, that is very, very important. So for any manufacturer, any government private manufacturer, he has to see, he has to maintain the quality parameter. He had then only, first it should be productive, or it should be beneficial, or it should be more productive to the lab level and to the small field level. Then only it would go for the commercialization or multi-location trial. What is that? Basically, quality means what? Presence of right type of microorganism in a viable form and desired number. Both are there. Viable form and desired number. So this is the two important key factors when you are using living material. You can't use to less population and your population is also not viable, then you will not able to gain the benefit of that microorganism. What kind of regulation are there? In the biofertilizer, BIS, Bureau of Indian Standard, FCO Fertilizer Control Order, and they have in 1985, the FCO order was governing that fertilizer also and the biofertilizer also. The same regulation were governing, and in 1985, Rhizobium, Azotobacter, Azospirillum, they were the key element of biofertilizers. But later on, in 2006, it was amended, and biofertilizer was promoted like anything. What kind of biofertilizers nowadays are available? Like Rhizobium, Azotobacter, Azospirillum, phosphate solubilization, zinc solubilization, K solubilization, silicon solubilization. There are many kind of microorganisms which are giving nutrient to the plant. Only are those are biofertilizer. You can't say trichoderma solely as a biofertilizer, but because it has biopesticide traits also. But nowadays, what is it earlier were using single microbes, because in our regulation there is a no mechanisms making making consortium, but still some of them, so bio and pk, that means they are using microbes for three: nitrogen, phosphorus, and and potassium. So three kind of microbes in one formulation. We are not using, the government is not still allowing, but for bio and pk government has allowed exceptionally. So this is one example which is of consortium. Otherwise, we are using single kind of microorganism as a biofertilizer. Under the statutory provision, the biofertilizer production and its sale have been regulated and is a mandatory requirement for registration of every manufacturing unit with state fertilizer control. If you want to put a startup even, or you want to put an industry, you need to take permission from the state government, particularly commissioner or director of the agriculture department. So for any biofertilizer unit, if you want to establish, you need to take permission, or you need to seek permission from the state. Then only you will be able to manufacture biofertilizer. And who are they? Who are the person from the agriculture department? They are fertilizer inspector. Mainly, they are responsible, authorized for inspection of production unit, a storage facility, draw a sample for quality analysis. Who will, like food inspector? Fertilizer inspectors are also there. They are doing their job. Once they provided the license, once the state government provided license, the fertilizer inspector visit the unit and they do their duty like food inspector. So what manufacturer should do, and what a manufacturer should have? Adequate microbiological laboratory and qualified lab. This is the first criteria. If you want to establish a unit of biofertilizer, you should have microbiology laboratory. This is the minimum facility, along with one microbiologist. Then sampling and testing at various stages of production, including quality of raw material. If your raw material is not good, your product will not at all be good. So sampling at the time of sampling also, when we are manufacturing, you need to take the sample from every step. That is step I will let you know further. Third is specify on the packet all contents and sell point. For example, if you go in the market and you see that any packet food product nowadays, they are giving too many parameters, too many technical specifications of that product. How much carbohydrate is, protein is there, who has given license, what is the shelf life, what is the batch number. Similarly, a packet has to contain what is inside. Whether it is, suppose if you are purchasing as a food product, you are seeing whether it is from the non-veg, it is from the flesh side of the human side or the animal side, or it is from the vegetation. The product is from the plant, or it is from the origin or the animal. And they are putting red and green. Similarly, here we have to put everything on the packet. So specify on the packet all the content and the cell, the source of mother culture. Now, because here the culture is very, very important. First and foremost is culture. We need to specify what kind of culture, what is the strain number. See, the mother culture and the strain name should be mentioned. Why I am emphasizing again strain? Because the interaction, plant microbe interaction is governed by the strain of a particular genera or species. So then the fourth point, the unit should fix their quality certificate, batch number, pack product. That I have explained, that any packet should mention all these, like quality certificate, batch number, pack and product of proper packaging, and then after preparation of the packet of the preparation of formulation, store the final product in the cooler place till they are sold to the farmer. This is very, very important. Now in the coronavirus, what the government is doing, they are providing the -80 chamber, -20 chamber. But are they really promoting biofertilizer or bioindustry in a similar way? Because no, my question is no, they are not. If that is why but they are making, the government is providing that kind of promoting that you should develop such a kind of facility, cold room, so that you can store your product for sale and for the storage also. And the for another important point, to ensure to have the aseptic condition, cleanness and contamination free production line and house. So for any microbiological, we know that contamination should not be there, either in the place where we are working or in the product, and your system should be closed. It should not be open so that contamination will come. So this is the parameter for a startup or the machine or the manufacturing unit operating. So these are the parameters we need to follow for any manufacturing unit of biofertilizer. So I was telling about what is the stage where you can check the quality. Like if you are developing a drug in a drug industry also or other medicine, there is a stage of quality control. Similarly here, quality control tests are performed mainly at following stage. Which stage? Mother culture stage. First stage, even your culture is okay or not, where culture is not contaminated at the initial stage. So you need to see this is the mother culture or this is a subcultured culture. If you take subcultured culture, you may not get proper response. That is why lyophilization of microbes is very, very important. We cannot culture in a temporary phase. Otherwise, that may lose the trait. That is why lyophilization or liquid nitrogen conservation of microbe is very, very important. And we need to do, then only will able to save the trait of the microorganism. Then the second one is during carrier selection and extract. Suppose you are choosing lignite or peat, you have to see what kind of product you, what kind of carrier you are using for your bioformulation. So that is also very important. Then in the broth tested, suppose you are cultivating bacteria. So what is the broth, whether it is anaerobic, microaerophilic or aerobic, whether population you have achieved or not, or they are containing some microbes, a contaminant or not. So every stage you have to follow and you have to check that we are right, we are right, we are right. While mixing this broth with the carrier, where you are mixing in open chamber or in the closed chamber or in very protected, that is also very important. In the finished product, once you have developed the product, then also the criteria comes. And at this stage, any licensing company, at this stage, your product, they are taking sample, they are seeing the whether you are fulfilling the criteria of the regulation or not. So if you will not fulfill, you will not be able to license it. And during a storage, even in the storage, if you are storing for a long period of time, you need to sample yours and you see whether your microbes are present or not. So this is important quality criteria for biofertilizer. So quickly I'll go. What are the qualitative parameters for, particularly for rhizobium, contaminant, free contaminant? I think everybody has seen that rhizobium culture. So once in our life, when you are in the agriculture or in anywhere, so there should not be visible contaminations in the product. And the change in color, if you are, why they are telling, if you are growing broth, there should be not much change in the pH, and pH is also regulated. If it is between the 6.5 to 7, then only we'll feel that the culture, whatever we are given in the broth, is okay. Or if it is deviating from less than 6 or more than that, then there is a suspect that some contamination is there. Because Rhizobiums are two types. One is a bradyrhizobium, slow growing. Another is a fast growing rhizobium. But in spite of that, if you compare with the pseudomonas, they are less or the slow growing. So they come later. If you are inoculating on the plant and within 24 hours or within 12 hours, you are getting microbes, then it would not be your rhizobium. Rhizobium always come after 24 hours because they are slow. Even fast growing rhizobia are their behavior are like that. So we should be very careful. We should know that what is the behavior of microorganism. So what are the other qualitative parameters? Another is agglutination. We have the antibody, then we can react like a corona test, antigen test is there. Similarly, here rhizobium is the antigens and we can develop antibody and then agglutination test is one. If they are performing well, it's okay. And then the one parameter which for long being used for the rhizobium is the growth on the glucose peptone parameter. So glucose and peptone, most of the rhizobiums are not growing on that, are growing very meagerly. So they are rhizobium. But if they are growing very fast, then there is a suspect. So these are some qualitative parameters, and you can read from the literature also. If you go, I'm not going much in the details, but I'm giving you some tips where you can see. So for the rhizobium, why this glucose peptone parameter was taken? Because most of the rhizobiums are not growing, are growing very meagerly, very slow, or very, they are not as fast as on the YAMA medium, the recommended medium for rhizobium. So these are the qualitative parameters. Then what are the quantitative parameters for any? I told you that the population is very, very important. So population total count 10 to the power 9 or 8 is very important, and we are using sometimes sigmocytometer, that is Petrov-Foster bacterial count plate, but you cannot count the viable one. So you need to grow on the medium. You need to grow in the broth, and then only you will able to see whether the live population is there or not. Because in the live, because in the broth, the population will be the live, no dead. Dead will be there, but it would be very less. So I'll give you some examples of what is the requirement, regulatory requirement for the rhizobium. You see the carrier, what kind of carrier requirement? Dry powder or granule or liquid. And what should be the viable population count? It should be 10 to the power 7 in the powder. Then what is the contamination level? It should be less than 20 to the power 5 or less than 20 to the power 3. That means 100 out of millions, 100 will be there, then it would be recommended. If it is more than lakhs, it will not be recommended. So pH, what should be the pH of the your formulation is 6.5 to 7. And what kind of material? What is the size of material? So all materials will pass through 0.5 to 0.2 millimeter CU. That you cannot put any size of material for the formulation. So that is also fixed. You need to take this size of problem. Then what should be the moisture? Moisture will be the 30 to 40%. So this is the criteria, and the four most important, first and foremost important, your product should have nodule forming ability in your rhizobium. And this is the first criteria in the case of rhizobium, whether they are nodulating or not. That is called effective nodulation and non-effective nodulation. If nodulation is not there, that means it is not good product. So for Azotobacter, you see almost all parameters are similar, but they should have fixing capacity of 10 milligram of nitrogen per gram of sucrose consumed. So this is one method by which Azotobacter, all other parameters you look are almost similar. This is one distinctive point. Then for Azospirillum, again you look, almost all other parameters are similar to rhizobium or azotobacter. But what should be there in the semi-solid medium is a pellicle formation just near to the just top of the bottom, but just below the bottom. They form a pellicle, they form a biofilm of the azoospermillum in the semi-solid nitrogen-free bromothymol group, and that pellicle will be of blue color. That is the indication of presence of azoospermillum in the product. Phosphate solubilizing bacteria, almost all parameter is similar, but if you see the efficiency, phosphate solubilizing capacity in the range of 30% when tested spectrophoto. Suppose if you are quantifying the phosphate solubilization by the bacillus, it should give 30% yield. Then only it would be considered in the regulation. Or in terms of zone formation, because they solubilize, they form zone 5 millimeter zone in prescribed media having at least 3 mm thickness. That means if zone size is also prescribed, that you need to follow, then only your phosphate solubilizing bacteria will be recognized. Then mycorrhizal. Now here it is a little bit different because mycorrhiza is a biotrophs. It's require living material. So even if that require living material, we are using fine powder, tablet, granule, root biomass mix with growing substrate. And what should be the other particles at 90% should be passed through 250 micron C. So you see here the size of particle or the material is very, very less. Earlier it was 0.5 like that. It is here 250 microns. So it is less. Then pH moisture 12% here. Earlier we are saying 40 up to 40%. Now here we are saying 12% only. So this is the criteria. And then four most important point is here we are seeing, suppose any formulation which are having spore of the wampanocyte. So they should have infection capacity of 80 infection point in a test route per gram of mycorrhiza. So this is the standard. Another standard is 100 propagules should be there in 1 gram of the product. Then only it would be considered as a biofertilizer of well. So these are the important criteria we need to follow. Then only you will be able to get it licensed. So general procedure for quality control of biofertilizer, all I have already explained, but still I'm going granted identification strain. I was talking since beginning the strain. Guaranteed strain density in the product. That means population count. Assessment of main microbial activity as an indicator. That means what? Suppose your bioformulation is containing rhizobium. Are they performing nodulation? Or if it is a phosphate solubilizing, are they yielding 30% phosphorus? This is the criteria in the activity. Because you are going for, suppose nitrogen fixation, you are going for nodulation by rhizobium. So activity is important. The effective evaluation on the target. Now you see we have talked about that why all the crops or the wheat variety, all the rice plants are not responding equally. See, here we are saying effective evaluation of target crop. So we have to evaluate your microbes with the target crop, and then only your response will be governed by interaction of the both. And then only yield will be there. And then finally comes registration. So these are in the brief, the general procedure for quality control and the development of the biofertilizer also. So quickly I'm coming. This is all about the biofertilizer. Biostimulant, I'm quickly going. So biostimulant is a new term introduced by the globe. And India still it is in a draft stage. And it is in between biofertilizer and biopesticide. So if I talk a little bit about this, but what is biostimulant? You see the definition now: substance or microorganism, a combination of both, whose primary functions when applied to the plant seed rhizosphere is to stimulate physiological process in the plant and to enhance its nutrient uptake, growth, yield, nutrition efficiency, crop quality, tolerance to abiotic stress, tolerance to both biotic and abiotic. So you see the biopesticide mainly for the biotic stress management. Here the what biostimulants, what kind of microbes will come in this category, India has not yet decided that any microorganism they have not listed in the biostimulant category because they don't have right now regulation on bio. But USA has developed, Canada has developed, France has developed a product with the name of biostimulant. I'll come later, and they are earning too much in this area also because they are developing not biofertilizer and biopesticide, but with the name of a biostimulant. So in the other country, if you talk rhizobium, PGPR, Bacillus, Pseudomonas, Trichoderma, natural products derived from organic matter, they are all comes under biostimulant under the US Canada regulation, not India. I'm not talking about India right now. Because right now, if you see in India, no microorganism so far has been in the list of biostimulant. Other products are there, natural product is there, but no microorganism so far designated in this list. So this is very, very important, debatable aspect nowadays. So because that was a little aspect and regulation are still under the formulation, I'm not talking much about this because we are also involved in that aspect. And since it will come in the picture, then only we'll be able to discuss much. Now, now I'm quickly coming to the biopesticide. What are biopesticides? For any disease management, for any insect management, for any other biotic stress creation by the plant, human, or anything, how we can do it. But mainly I will focus on the pathogen control or the insect control. So this comes under biotic stress, biotic biopesticide. So in India, two types of regulations are there. One is the Central Insecticide Board Registration Committee, and another is the Food Safety Standard Authority of India. This is the two body which regulate pesticide regulation in India. In case of food, Food Safety Standard FSSAI. Everybody I think know, if you go in any super bazaar or any product, if you see, you may find FSAI. If it is written there, they have certified your product in terms for the pesticide regulation. How much pesticide is there, how much preservative is there in the food products. That is regulated by Food Safety Standard Authority of India. But I am not talking this. I will talk on the Central Insecticide Board and Registration Committee for registration of biopesticide. So what is the act we have? We have act right now. It's the Insecticide Act 1968. Now you can see the how old acts we have earlier also. That is mainly for the pesticide, not for the biopesticide. So what this act is doing? To prevent risk to the human beings, animal, and matter concerned with there. That means any risk, if you are using any pesticide, there should not be risk, or biopesticide, there should not be risk to the human being, animal, or any concern, or any target microorganism. It should not target the untargeted microorganisms. Then what this regulation is doing? To regulate import, manufacture, distribution, transport, stocking, and use. This is also permitting this. So this is a very comprehensive act. So what is this doing actually? How is implementing body? The central government, which having capacity, having ability, or have authority like CIB, RCB, that is Central Insecticide Committee and Registration and Quality Control. Though central government is taking these two in the consideration. One is registration of microorganism and the quality control. State government, what they are doing, suppose central government registered, state giving manufacturing license, then sell permit, quality controller. So very defined rules are there in Insecticide Act 1968. Central government, what is the role? State government, what is the role? So statutory body under the insecticide. What are the statutory body on the insecticide? Central government, I have already discussed, CIB, RCB, that means Central Insecticide Board and Registration. Central Insecticide Laboratory, Regional Pesticide Testing Laboratory, then a state level, what a state is doing, licensing. They have licensing structure to give license, insecticide inspector, insecticide analyst, and pesticide poisoning report. So you see there are defined rule under the Insecticide Act. Central is doing this and the state is doing this. Central Insecticide Board and Registration, what is the composition? If you see, there is a chairman and chairman of Central Insecticide Board and then chairman of Registration Committee. And then if you look, there are many units in this: bioefficacy unit, chemistry unit, medical toxicology unit, packaging level unit, legal unit, and administrative. So all these comes under the registration, and there is a group of team where one chairman is there who is governing this, and ICR is Indian Council of Agriculture Research is involved because there is one ADG is sitting in the Indian Council of Agriculture Research who is designated as plant protection and biosafety. Biosafety is very, very important. Not only biosafety, but biosecurity is also very important for that purpose, for the quarantine purpose. These aspects are very, very important. And the first and foremost, it should not be the toxic to the animal and human. So far we have how many products? You see, we have 900 products registered so far by the Central Insecticide Board or registration. So we have number of microorganisms, although most of them are not in the pipeline or not in the chain, but we have potentiality to introduce biosepticide in the country. So quickly I'll go. So this is the act I have already discussed what act is doing. And if you see the global trend, you see this slide and see this biopesticide, the orange one. You see after 2053 and 63, it will supersede the pesticide. This is the trend. If we go in this way, we may achieve this. And this is the speculation, hypothesis, or the expectation of the globe that we should reverse the trend and then only will be able to do. That is why India is also promoting organic farming and natural farming. And our Prime Minister is emphasizing like anything that we promote natural farming so that we can achieve the goal and we will not pollute our environment. So you see the slide, this is from the insecticide board slide, and they are, if you see, Trichoderma, Pseudomonas, NPBB means nuclear polyhydrosis viruses, Bacillus, Beauveria, Verticillium, Lecani, Metarrhizae. So these are the microorganisms which has been registered as biopesticide, and among them, if you see, Trichoderma is contributing a most. Most of the people are registering Trichoderma because they have multiple property. They have biofertilizer property also, they have biostimulant property also, they have biopesticide property also. So that is why Trichoderma is the one which is very, very important in the country and widely being used. You see, Trichoderma, this is the same picture, 355. This is almost same picture. And When the biopesticide, I told you that Insecticide Act was in 1966, but 26th March 1999, biopesticide was introduced. You see, in 1999, I joined in 1999, 97 Soybean Research, and 99 this act was, the biosafety was introduced in the Insecticide Act, and thereafter it's become a part of that. So these are the list. You see that what are the kind of microorganism there in the biopesticide list or the Gazette of India list. You see that antagonistic fungi and bacteria, bacillus, Pseudomonas, Gliocladium, Trichoderma. Dr. Sab has told now Gliocladium, Trichoderma. So these are under the category of antagonistic fungi and bacteria. Then entomotoxic bacteria like Bacillus thuringiensis, you all have heard Bacillus thuringiensis. So there are many Bacillus thuringiensis species with subspecies. Then entomopathogenic fungi, those who are acting on the insect, Beauveria bassiana, Metarhizium annusophili, Verticillium licani. So they act on the insect. So that is why they are called entomogenous fungi. And then the viruses like NPP is very important. So these are the microorganisms which are listed in the biopesticide list, Gazette of India, March 26, 99. And thereafter, there many has been introduced, which I am showing list. You see, so far are 39 microorganisms, and probably this time it could be 43 or 44. 39 microorganisms in the scheduled list of insecticide or biopesticide, and it can be registered. So what should be the requirement for the product? I'm very quickly going. Strain specification. Again, I'm putting, as I was putting in the biofertilizer, strain specification. CFU count means population count. Target microorganism. For which microorganism? Suppose you have one bacillus targeting Fusarium wilt of the chickpea. That means it should target only to the Fusarium wilt, not to any other microorganism. Should target fungi or target pathogens. Moisture content, very important, 30% to 40%. Type of bioformulation, solid or liquid, and technical bulletin and profile. There must be a book or the leaflet or the pamphlet that show what is the product, what are the criteria, how you have developed. How you have developed, they will not ask, but how you can use, what is the shelf life, what is the batch number, what is the expiry, all this you kind of need to mention. What is strain? Again, I'm coming to the first part, strain specification. What should be, suppose you are using Trichoderma genus, species which are genum or virens or spirillum, what then? Rhizocompetence, I was talking about, if a microbes is not colonizing the rhizosphere or the particular site, then it is not useful. So in the strain, what should be the property of a strain? The name should be there clear. Then it should have property to colonize the root. Biological activity compatibility. Are they compatible in the soil? Or as soon as you are putting it, vanishing, so it will not work. Growth promotion capability or ability. Are they enhancing plant growth? If they are not enhancing, we may not use. And wide range of growth parameter like pH and temperature. Are they surviving at different pH? Are they surviving at different temperature? So this should be the property of your microorganism. So this is the criteria we need to follow in selection of the strain of particular microbes. CFU count and shelf life, we are discussing CFU count. What should be the CFU count? If you look that the data required for claiming 1 year shelf life of product is for 15 months survival in the top phase. So even shelf life in the different talc-based formulation, we need to provide at least 1 year shelf life. Then only it would be accepted with 10 to the power 6 population per ml or per gram of product. If it is a liquid per ml, it should be population or spore should be 10 to the power 6. If it is a solid powder, it should be in gram. what are the, besides this, what the contaminant? If you talk pathogenic contaminant, what kind of pathogenic? They are plant pathogenic, or they are human pathogenic, or they are fecal contaminant. You see, we are generally targeting which are fecal in nature, fecal contaminant, which are coming from our fish. Salmonella, Shigella, Vibrio. It should not present in your product. It should be less than 10 to the power 3. Here we have written 4, but we are trying to do 10 to the power. It should not go beyond 100 population per gram. So moisture content, it should depend 8 to 10% depending upon the formulation. Then chemistry, I'm not much discussing here. Bioefficacy is very, very important. We need to see how your product or how your microbes are effective. Suppose lab efficacy, the product should be tested against the target pathogens at one of the laboratory of ICR, SIU, CSIR, ICO. If you are targeting for licensing or registration, your bioefficacy certificate is from these laboratories. Then comes second, field evaluation. The intended product, means the product you are testing or the microbe you are testing, should be tested for field bioefficacy under Indian conditions, means multi-location trial or field guide. And these field guidelines have been improvised. That means earlier some other guidelines were there. We have now improvised how we can do that. I will let you know. Suppose for field bioefficacy, if you have one crop, 2 seasons, there are 2 seasons in the year, Rabi and Kharif per year. So in both year we have to test it. If it is a Rabi crop, then it should be Rabi. And then in the second year, you have to at least 2 times you have to test in 2 different ecological regions or 2 different agroclimatic. Then only your registration can be permitted. That means here, what is this? This is a section 9 of 3 of permanent registration. If there are 2 kind of registration, one is temporary and another is permanent. Temporary taking registration is very difficult because you have to meet the criteria. And once you meet the criteria, you will get the permanent. So we need to test. We need to see, test your bioefficacy potential of your microorganism in the lab, in the field, and there is a guideline we have to follow for a crop. And then the another important point is it should not target to any non-target. That means it should not target. Suppose if it's targeting to Fusarium or it is targeting to Macrophomina, that is a phytopathogens, plant pathogens. And if it is also targeting to Rhizobium, then we will not allow this kind of bioformulation as a biopesticide because it is targeting Rhizobium, and Rhizobium is important in the legume crop. So if they will target, is it really useful? It is really make a consortium or synergistic with the legume crops? No. So we need not to go. And the most important and most difficult and most costing, it is costing too much, expensive, toxicological. Why toxicological? Because we know that if we are introducing any microorganism physically or artificially, because we know that Bacillus is present everywhere, Pseudomonas is present. You know that why we are not promoting Pseudomonas aeruginosa as a biofertilizer or biopesticide? Because that is a human pathogen, that is opportunistic. And that is why no country is permitting Pseudomonas aeruginosa. While they are permitting Pseudomonas fluorescens as a biofertilizer, biopesticide, but not permitting Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So that is in a similar way, we don't know which microorganism containing what kind of toxicity, like Bacillus thuringiensis. It is harmful for insect. Are they really harmful for only insect? Not for the human being, not for the any other. That is why this toxicological, and then there is also guideline there is mentioned I want not to go in detail, but I'm giving you some highlights that toxicological data generation and one of the institute that is Indian Institute of Toxicology available in the located in the Lucknow are doing this toxicological data. There are some other labs are they are also doing on the toxicological data generating on the rat, mouse, and other animals also. So if it is not bad for the rat and the mouse, we are predicting that it will also not be harmful for the humans because their genes, their functioning is similar to the human. That is why rat model, mice model, or the mouse models, rabbit models, sometimes guinea pigs we are using, although we are not using for this, but guinea pigs are also being used as a model animal in other countries. So there are, so human safety regard is a very, very important, particularly for the biopesticides. So toxicity to the chicken, beef, fresh water, it should not target to any non-target. Then only it would going to. So this is most difficult part of the biopesticide. Sometimes for toxicological study, it takes 20 lakhs rupees to generate the data. That is why most of the people are now neglecting this because they don't have this much of money to register one. That is why government is also thinking that what we should do so that more product will come. So there they have improvised and developed. I will let you know later. Packaging labeling, as I told you, in the biofertilizer, packaging labeling and all sort of a specification is needed as we are seeing in the food products in the supermarket. So now this is important. I was talking about that this was the guideline. What is the recent amendment in the CIB RCB? Because toxicological was the one bottleneck in the registration of the biopesticides. So what government has done? What policy maker has changed under this guideline? So see, CIB RCC issued new regulation on biopesticides. Registration of new strains of biopesticide. Sample have to be submitted to the Secretary CIBRC. I'm telling you how you can proceed, what is the procedure and what is the changes. You have to deposit your form to the Secretary CIBRC, one for pre-registration verification from the Central Laboratory Insecticide Laboratory for product specification. First, you have to submit application and then your product also to the Secretary CIB. Then comes in between things. DNA barcoding or fingerprinting is also becomes a very, very important mechanism to not to allow spurious product in the market or not to allow theft in the market. That means suppose I am having Bacillus thuringiensis and somebody has stolen and now he is claiming that this is my microorganism, my Bacillus thuringiensis. What is the way to find out? What is the way to find out? The way is to DNA barcoding or the fingerprinting. So who is authorized for that? Who is authorized for doing that DNA barcoding and that? The one is NBI-MOW, where I was there for 6 years and we were doing the same thing. We are characterizing DNA fingerprinting, keeping in the safe deposit for the legal matter. So that if anyone is claiming that this is or any litigation is come, we can give to the legal body. Another point, another place where DNA fingerprinting is going on is MTCC Chandigarh, microbial type culture collection. They are also authorized and technical audit by the experts. So technical auditing people are there. But for the DNA fingerprinting, the two organizations, NBI-MOW, that is National Bureau of Agriculturally Important Microorganisms and microbial type culture. For any biopesticide, you need to deposit your culture in the NBIM and or MTCC, take the accession number, because that accession number will come on your packet, that this is my strain. Your accession number is the strain also. It will designate the strain also. So that is very, very important. And the NBIM or the MTCC is storing your data, your culture also. They are storing the culture also and the DNA fingerprinting data also. So this is very, very important. And this was implemented when I was director in charge of that institute in January 2016. So this was implemented that. So what are the microbes which were exempted? Which were exempted from that? This is the latest development in the CIB-RCB. We are going to give that guidelines. We are exempting some of the microorganisms, but strain is very, very important. But simply, the guideline has been given for some microorganism or some fungi, some bacteria, that these are exempted from this. But suppose Trichoderma virens and I have T62. So if any other person is giving for licensing or anything, they need not to go for toxicological. But Trichoderma, something else, then you need to go for toxicology because that is a new microorganism. We don't know what is the cause. But we are also trying. Need not to go for the strain, but you go only for the species. Like Trichoderma harzianum, virens, asperellum. Like that, you see all these microorganisms. Now we are trying to keep away from the toxicological data generation because we have many right now, and we did not find any toxicological data or toxicological symptoms in the human being or animal by using these products. So we are trying to exempt the industry or the developer not to develop toxicological data. So this is a good news for the industry people also. So these are some of the microorganisms are in the list, which I have already told you. We need not to go. I'm quickly going to some other important point. I'm leaving something here. See, after registration, what are the product we have in the market? I'll leave something here because time is also going very fast and we'll discuss more. Biopesticide technology, what are we have? Suppose one from the ICAR, IIHR. What is this IIHR? IIHR is Indian Institute of Horticulture Research in Bangalore. So they develop biopesticide, you see, Trichoderma harzianum. IIHR Tricho Rich N. They develop, it is a registered product under the CIB-RCB and also commercialized by the MS Rao. He was earlier entomologist there who developed this product. Then Trichoderma viride again from the IIHR. They have developed another product. Then some liquid formulation, you see, Trichoderma harzianum, IIHR again, THC, see, this is the strain, TH2. And whereas this is the accession number, this ITCC is from where? It is from the Indian Type Culture Collection, IARI New Delhi. So earlier there was no regulation for NBIM and MTCC. So they are mentioning the accession number of the old one because this culture is very, very old. So similarly, Beauveria bassiana, this Metarhizium anisophili, they are also being used. One institute is there, NBAIR, National Bureau of Agriculturally Important Insect. They have developed the bioformulation of microorganism using Beauveria bassiana and Metarhizium anisophili for the control of the insect helicoverpa and other diseases in oil formulation. This is a liquid based formulation developed by NBIR, one of the ICR institute. So this is another Trichoderma species developed by again from one of the but from the Hyderabad Institute for the castor, sunflower, and other. This is again Trichoderma species. by the R.D. Prasad, is the one of the scientists who have developed this. Then people have also developed some consortia, although they are not registered, but they are using for the commercialization. So this is one product developed by the Kajiri Central Arid Zone Research Institute, and it is not yet registered, but one of them is patented. Bacillus firmus. When I was in the Central Arid Zone Research Institute, I have isolated one microorganism, that is Bacillus firmus, from the arid soil. And later on, our other colleagues have developed a patent on this. That is, I think, Marusena 2, they have developed as a Bacillus firmus, and now they are trying to commercialize it. But all these regulation, it is directly related to the bioinoculant, that is biofertilizer, but there are some associated regulation. You must know, then only you will able to understand the bioinoculant technology, how we can develop, what are the constraints, how we can mitigate the constraint, how we can combat the constraint. So what are the associated, one, two slide I will go. One associated regulation, it's a regulation of biosecurity and biosafety. What is biosecurity? That means, suppose if anything, any product is coming from outside, are they carrying some microbes? Are they carrying some harmful agent? So that is why we have quarantine to see. And that comes under the biosecurity. And biosecurity is a very broad term where we are dealing with the country, transboundary transfer of the microorganism from one country. Suppose wheat rust, it was earlier in the Dhaka, in the Bangladesh, is transferred to the India. Dr. Sai Prasad might be knowing that how that microbes are transferring, invasive pathogens we are calling. Since I am in the biotic stress management, so we are dealing with this biosecurity and biosafety. So this is one, and globally people are working on that. We are, even India is not allowing any malicious type of microorganism in the country, because have you heard that name of Parthenium? Everybody knows that, but what is Parthenium? How it came? It came from the USA through the seed, wheat. So again, it is a problem for now. Now it is a great problem for our country. Everywhere Parthenium is there, Gajar Ghas is there, is everywhere. So it is a concern of biosecurity, biosafety. Whatever toxicological data we are generating for your biopesticide, that comes under biosafety. Means our own safety within the system. You see, biosafety entails use of containment principle, technology, practice that are implemented to prevent unintentional exposure to the pathogens or toxin in our system, within the system, whether we are exposing with any microorganism which are toxic. So this is the biotoxins. We must know this regulation also. Then besides that, we know that there are one body, National Biodiversity Authority, which is located in the Chennai. If you want to export any microorganism from outside country, we need to follow this Biological Diversity Act 2002 and 2004 regulation. Or even if you want to access microbes or any biological material from the forest for the commercial purpose, we need to take permission from the National Biodiversity Authority. So for the commercial purpose, for example, I'm not giving example of microbes, but I'm giving one example of sandalwood. Sandalwood, people are procuring for commercial purposes, or any wood. So for harvesting from the forest, for taking out from the forest, or for sending to other country, we need to take permission from National Biodiversity. And not only that, we also need to share the profit 1 or 2% that is designated to the National Biodiversity Authority of your income. That is one. And second one, sometimes if the biological material is of ethnic entity, or it is an ancient govern, or the growing by some kind of people, a special kind. Suppose in the Chhattisgarh area, Jhabua and Jagdalpur area, if you go in the Bastar area, they have a different kind of culture. They have different type of medicines. They have, suppose if you are extracting from there and using for commercial use, then you have to give your share both to National Biodiversity Authority and the people who are cultivating that plant. You have to share. That is what is called access benefit sharing. Access kiya, you have to track from somewhere, and whatever benefit you are getting, you have to share from the people and from the authority. So this is the act. So we have in every state also, see that the national body is National Biodiversity Authority. In state, every state there is a state biodiversity. Biodiversity Management Committee, many biodiversity management committee in the states. So these are the important, because we are working on the life micro. We must know that if we have isolated microbes from the Bastar region of Chhattisgarh, and we are learning a lot, then you have to share with the people of the Bastar and the National Biodiversity. This you must know, then only we will able to survive in the industry. So thank you very much. This is all very broad, although I had not gone to detail, but this is a very broad type of presentation which I had covered many things. Thank you. Any question, any query, any clarification, I'm ready to give.
For sir.
Yeah.
Are there any questions? Dev Sharma?
Question.
Yes,
I have a
anything?
question for
Yes, Supriya ma'am.
Dr. Sharma.
Yeah.
Dr. Sharma, I'm from Indore Biotech.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you on the biofertilizer labels. Is it mandatory to put strain name or even the microbe that we are using as biofertilizer?
Madam, in all three cases, whether it's a biopesticide, whether it's a biostimulant, whether it is a biofertilizer, to my understanding, it is mandatory, because whenever any people are submitting, even in the culture, we are asking what is the strain. Because suppose if you go for Bacillus subtilis, huge number of Bacillus are there. Which Bacillus? Have you designated with anything that this is the tag and this is the one Bacillus which is carrying this kind of property? So that we need to define. That is why we are sticking on the strain. That is one. The second aspect, you just let me know. The second aspect, we don't know what are the other inherent property in the microorganism. That is why in the patent law, if you see, whenever you are going for the typing of the bacteria or proposing new taxa, we are preserving that microorganism in two international depositories, one in India, another outside the country. So that is why, to my understanding and to the global level, mentioning a strain name is now becoming mandatory. Although I don't know exactly in the biofertilizer, but in biopesticide, we have emphasized to take a strain name, because we are also taking the toxicological data. Maybe
Yes,
in this little bit relaxation is there, but government is now not promoting.
I believe FCO does not mandate biofertilizer strain name to be mentioned because most of the, especially on the labels, on labels you need not mention.
Maybe you are right. In case of biofertilizer, particularly, it is not so mandatory or so not. But in other
In
cases, it is very,
insecticides, of
very.
course, by pesticides, I agree.
So you
And
need to.
I completely agree with you, sir, because I'm also of the opinion that the strain names, the genus, species, strain names should be mentioned even on biofertilizers, because it is very important for the safety of use of these products. And I do agree with you. I was just wondering because in on many labels I have not seen, they just mention that it's a fungal strain, biofertilizer fungal strain, biofertilizer bacterial strains. So that is what they mention. So that was my question. That's it.
Thank you,
Thank
madam.
you.
Thank you. It's a nice question. We will deliberate also because I'm going.
Yes.
I think we have here also. We have one school on policies for biotic stress management. So these
Yes.
all parameters we are also going for brainstorming and what should be the policy, biotic stress management policy in the country. That is not
Mhm.
there. That is not there.
And
So
and also, I have a suggestion, since you have given such a wonderful, comprehensive, and detailed information in your lecture, sir. I'm really thankful to you. And also, I have a suggestion for policymakers, that only instead of only NPK, they should allow other multi-trade consortia to be registered under FCO as well.
Madam, to this, my first response is, although this time regulation is for only single micro, no regulation for consortia. But one exception is there, NPK. That is
NPK.
bio NPK is one. And what we are going to do, what we are trying to emphasize the policymaker that there are many consortia which are working very, very good.
Yes, absolutely.
Why we are not adopting it?
Exactly.
Number one. Now, number two, we have many kind of microorganism, one in biofertilizer, one in biopesticides, and now we are going to propose biostimulant. In India, so far 2021, we are also looking guideline of that. We have not set. But what US people have
Exactly.
said, what US people have said, for single level, suppose you see trichoderma. Trichoderma is one which are having both biofertilizer property, growth property, and
Yes,
biopesticide. Can we
absolutely.
label them in a one label? Can we label them in a one product as a
No.
bio? We don't have. But what US and Canada has done, they label trichoderma as a biostimulant in one single packet. And they are not even following much stringent regulation of toxicology generation of, although they are following, if you that they have their own regulation of environmental protection, although they are following that one,
Yes,
but
EPA. Yes,
EPA is there,
yes,
but still they have put Rhizobium pseudomonas under this category of the biostimulant, and that is why we are also debating in India why can't we are placing these in the biostimulant. Suppose
exactly.
how long we can, how much money we can expend for toxicological data. We don't have that much money.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are
Uh,
spending humongous amount on toxicological data now.
data.
And you just showed a slide where you said that Bacillus subtilis need not be
Yeah.
subjected to
Now
toxicological.
they are exempting. Now they are exempting some
Yeah,
trichoderma species, Beauveria species, because
yeah.
last you see this 1995 biopesticide came into the picture of the insecticide. From there, now we have lot of product. Now they are not imposing any toxicological problem on the animal or the plant.
True.
So now the policy maker has decided that at least we can exempt these genera, although they are also right now also they are mentioning that you mention a strain, so that it would be easy, because even if you go for the trait and DNA fingerprinting, bacillus, that trichoderma harzianum and aspergillum, and they will be different biomarkers for that.
True.
That is why they are trying that. We are also trying that we should exempt some of the microorganisms for toxic, so that we can emphasize, we can promote people particularly the private
Absolutely.
people, so that they will come out with the new product. That is
True.
the target under the PPP model. Government is targeting right now that we should promote a startup, we should promote new entrepreneurship. So where is the place?
Absolutely.
These are the gaps.
True. I agree. I agree completely. And not only that, I would like to mention here Bacillus amyloliquefaciens, such a wonderful microbe, sir. And we do not know how to register it, where to register it. It is not a biofertilizer. It does not come under CIB purview. And it is showing such wonderful trends where to register it.
Yeah, I
That's a big
know.
question.
This is the one microorganism in US, GB8 or something
Yeah,
like that. This strain is
it's a
there.
big market. Yeah.
And another is in France, not France, Germany, that Rainer Boris.
Hmm.
He has divided that Bacillus amyloides. Now it is Bacillus valenzensis.
Valenzensis. Correct.
Valenzensis. Now,
Correct.
so
Correct.
same bacterium. Now they are saying that this is valenzensis, but it was originally Bacillus amyloides derived from the plant. So that is why, to my understanding, what I'm thinking, probably it will come in the biostimulant.
Hopefully,
Maybe.
hopefully.
Probably.
We tried to get that done recently. We
such-
got so many of our products under FCO, registered under FCO,
So
the biostimulant products.
biostimulant products is actually.
Yes, we wanted to get this done too, but they said no microbes.
Actual name, because no microbes, because there is no regulation. We don't have right guidelines.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just in December last week, I was in my home, and my home in Delhi itself. I was in the council. I was discussing with PPP and biosafety ADG. He was saying, Dr. Saab, we are discussing every day. We are discussing how we can come to some conclusion and we can include. He's a pathologist. He was earlier in NBPGR as a Dr. S.C. Dubey is there. He was in quarantine.
Okay.
So long back he worked, and now he is the plant protection advisor to Government of India also, and biosafety chairman. He is not chairman although, but he is a man of biosafety. So chairman is Dr. DDG, Dr. T.R. Sharma, chairman of that. So they are working. We are also working as a microbiologist, pathologist. All of them are working.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Same here, sir.
Anything?
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable session and information. I think we have one more question from Rishi. If I'm seeing it correctly. Yes.
Hello. Hello, sir. My name is Neeraj Solanki.
Okay.
Oh God.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, you're audible.
So I wanted to ask that how these biofertilizers are will be working in with respect to the integrated farming method, where 2 or 3 plants are planted simultaneously. And one more question is there, sir. What are the possible reasons and possible solutions for the lack of awareness of small-scale farmers, specifically small-scale farmers, with respect to biofertilizer? I mean, they are not using the farmers who have 2-3 small farming lands. And
I understood your question.
Yes.
Your first question is what? Just repeat once again. पहला क्वेश्चन क्या है आपको बताएं? What is your first question? Hello.
Hello. So with this integrated farming methods, where
Okay.
2 or 3 crops are planted simultaneously.
Okay.
Yes.
That is, see, integrated farming system is not planting 2 or 3. That is a mixed crop or interculture planting. That is a different thing. See, in that case also, see, what is our crop rotation? We are generally proposing legume, cereal. This is the crop should be soybean in your area, in the Indore area. In the Kharif season, what we are growing? Soybean, that is a legume crop. And in the Rabi season, in the winter season, what we are growing mainly either chickpea or either या तो चना बोल रहे हैं और बोल रहे हैं. So in the soil, particularly the microorganism living in the soil, 70% microbial soil or the soil microbes living in the soil are same. Okay, means
Yes, sir.
100% में से 70% जो है वो एक जैसे है. Okay,
Hmm.
only 30%. So that is why there is a need of selection of microbes. Another response in your that is, since the microbes are living in the same habitats, when you are growing soybean, it will colonize soybean also. When you are growing wheat, it is colonized wheat also. When you are growing soybean and maize, both, one is harboring mycorrhiza. Suppose maize is harboring mycorrhiza too much, whereas soybean is harboring rhizobia too much. Well, I am not saying that there is no mycorrhiza, but the level of colonization in the maize plant or any cereal plant is more by the mycorrhiza in the cereal plant, but in the legume, the level of colonization is more by the rhizobia. So this is an interaction, and in the same environment, both of them are living. That is why earlier we are proposing for single microorganism. Now we are proposing for the consortium of micro, because soil के अंदर एक microbes नहीं है. There are huge number of microbes. तो इसीलिए जब हम आप मिक्स क्रॉप भी लगाते हैं, they colonize particular type of microbes because they are releasing particular type of rhizodeposition or exudate. सभी प्लांट अपने तरह का एक नेचर का रेट करते हैं, इसलिए वो पर्टिकुलर टाइप का ही कर पाते हैं. That is why even if you go for a different crops, and we are not cultivating for yesterday, we are cultivating for a ancient time, and all microbes are there. Any microbes you grow, you will get it response. Any crop you will grow, you will get it response in that way. What is your second question?
So second question was, what are the possible reasons behind the lack of awareness of small scale farmers
Lack
for
of
the uses of biofertilizers, and what could be the possible solutions also?
yeah. Actually, what is happening in case of fertilizer, Dr. Sai Prasad has told, what is happening in the fertilizer? Quick response, very quick. When you are adding urea, it is immediately become soluble. Ammonium is available in the environment and available to the plant. So that is why it is very quick. But when you are adding microbes in the soil, it is a living things. It is different from the plant. It has to work, and it will work only when the substantial amount of carbon is there. So when you add it in microbes, add it in the soil, they work along with the plant, and plant need that interaction also. And why your question is why the farmers is not adapting? Because they the yield response of the microbes is also very less, 10 to 15%. And to my understanding, farmers need more farmers want more income. So microbes, they are not accepting, although they are knowing that that microbes is useful for them, so, but they are not adopting because that they are feeling that this is not useful or this is not economical. That is one point. Second point, we don't have a much strict regulatory mechanism for quality product. Now we are preparing, India is preparing regulation, but earlier there were no regulation, and that is why the quality products were not there. Then we do not have market also. Even our policy makers are now propagating, but earlier they were not propagating, not promoting even biofertilizers. They are using potash fertilizers, that this kind of urea fertilizer, DAP or muriate of potash, but they were not promoting. Since now we are facing problem, our government is also changing. Now the fourth point is why they are not adopting. Why they are not adopting? They are also not much aware about this. Like corona, it is everywhere, but they don't know other microorganisms what they are doing, and they have option also. They are saying that fertilizer we are getting good amount of yield growth. That is why, that is one. Once we reduce the level of fertilizer and we will mix together fertilizer as well as microbes, that is what is called integrated farming. Integration of chemical as well as microbes in some particular proportion, whether in a compatible proportion, then only we will be able to realize the potential of this integrated farming. That is one. And most important is the only, to my understanding, it is the farmers who are not getting proper economy of that and not getting the quality. So this is the answer that why they are not getting. And that is why Dr. Sai Prasad also said that popularization, education, ट्रेनिंग, मीडिया एडवर्टाइजमेंट, कोलगेट का प्रचार तो रोज आता है, कभी एक बायो फर्टिलाइजर का प्रचार आता है? क्यों नहीं आता है? क्योंकि उसमें ना तो इंडस्ट्री को बहुत फायदा हो रहा है और ना हमारे किसान भाई उतना समझ रहे हैं. तो दैट इज एजुकेशन, ट्रेनिंग is very important, and then advertisement is also very important in this era. एक छोटा सा सीरियल आता है, उसका 10 बार एडवर्टाइजमेंट आता है, लेकिन हमारे किसी उसका तो नहीं आता है कि दिस इज यूजफुल फॉर फर्टिलाइजर. So these are some the technical issue and policy matter that need to be, you have to see the and that is why we are also looking, this government is also looking, and that is why they are going on the natural farming and the organic farming. So because of this, because there is less adoption is there. Dr. Sai Prasad is saying something.
Yeah, I also want to add something. Before 5 to 10 years, there is no shelf of organic products in the malls, but now slowly the organic products are also increasing, and slowly the consumers are also aware of this consumer organic products. So slowly it will change, and the farmers also will be educated to utilize the biofertilizers to produce organic products.
And the most important things, we should never consider that our farmers don't know. They are very clever. They are very clever. Unless you give some profit, they will not take any product. Why they are using mobile? Why they are using mobile? Earlier in 90s, we were not having mobiles because it was costly also, not accessible. It was not market में भी नहीं था. Now it is with everyone. So government policy, availability, technology, all should be there, then only they will adopt. Adoption is depend on the economic. That is my first fundamental point. If it is not economical, it is not beneficial to anyone, nobody is going to adopt. So farmers are very clever. They will not use unless these products are in plenty in the market, of the good quality in the market. We don't have it. That is the problem in the country. We know that this is the problem, and we are also working, but we need to work in a very stringent way as we were working on the coronavirus. But we will not work now. We will work, then some time will pass, and so that's this kind of things is required.
I also want to inform to this group that even in Indore itself, there is a availability of this organic produce in Bicholi Maidan and other places. So if as a consumers also, we must support this biofertilizer products in utilizing to improve our health conditions and environmental.
As Dr. Sai Prasad just mentioned, he was talking about Jaivik Setu, I believe. Yes?
Yes, madam.
Jaivik Setu, yes.
Yes.
So our company's MD, I'm very happy to say that our company's MD is also one of the founders of Jaivik Setu. And for 26 years, we have been promoting organic farming. And that is a model that we have developed near our manufacturing unit. And we train people in that, we train farmers, and we train students in that.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Sai Prasad sir, Sushil Kumar sir, and Supriya ma'am for a very interactive session.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you have gained great concepts with the first two lectures and have made your knowledge richer.